stream. Start the other stream. Start the recording.
People can hear us.
Yeah. Now they can hear you. But so we are actually live, but we're not going to do anything too crazy until we get some people in the stream and then run the infographic. See, part of me just wants to keep on
just chatting.
Just keep doing everything like by the book. Like, all right, it starts at this time, people show up in it, but like the problem with live streams is people trickle in. It's like, all right, so this is bonus content, which by the way, people on like the audio only podcasts and stuff hate this. Like they hate hearing chatter ahead of the thing. They just get all so
they probably just want to know the stuff that they want to know, right?
Yes. It's so
into the juices.
Yeah, so I always trim this part out when we do the actual thing. So that's nice. Let's see, we have a 14 people on YouTube. That's not bad. It's funny, almost everyone was on Odyssey for the last show, but this one, like almost everyone's on YouTube. Is it because like Dash people are more like boomers or something? Like, I don't know.
Is that an official question?
No, it's not an official question. Let's see. Yeah, we got.
I must say that like, YouTube's sometimes easier for people. More people like know YouTube than know Odyssey.
Yeah.
So that's probably something to do with it.
Yeah, could be. Or maybe that most of my live stream audience is just Dash people that don't really care about my other show, so they don't show up. So it's like the couple crumbs of extra that I got in there are people that like watch. But let's see, we're about 3 and 30 seconds. Get everyone else on board. It is 15 minutes after we said we'd start. So, I mean, people better be watching.
Hurry up.
We better be watching now. All right. That's probably good enough. Hey, everyone. I'm going to do the quick intro sequence. It's a very quick one. Don't worry. And then we'll just get right into things. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Good to see you all. Some of you might have been watching the other show right before then, but, either way, I'm joined by the one and only Quantum Explorer, also known as Sam Westrich. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. I am in beautiful Pattaya in Thailand.
Nice. I'm sure there's far worse places to be, locked in your room endlessly trying to crank out, a product while everyone's kind of ungrateful.
I've only been here for a day, and I go back home tomorrow. So
yeah. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, I guess there's a good reason I provide like the YouTube and the Odyssey links, because the Odyssey one seems to be like frozen up for some reason. I'm just good thing is the Odyssey one after it's done will always include I'll include the real one. But for those who don't know, the subject of today is something called High-Performance Masternodes, which is a name I desperately hope gets changed eventually because it's a little bit weird and dry.
On one
stuff.
thing there, right, is that
Yeah.
we should probably have a vote because some people hated supernodes, some people hate hypernodes. Everybody seems to have something that they just hate.
How about
So
ultra nodes?
I think we just have to call it, as I proposed earlier, what is it, like Happy Bodhi McNode face?
Yeah, but Nody McNode face. Or
Node face, yeah.
or slave master node or something. Just go all weird. It is pretty funny. I wonder how long the term master node is going to work because already with like master and slave branches and stuff of things, people have like, there's like male and female connectors. A lot of that stuff, people are starting to change. A lot of it I don't really care about because it's like antiquated. It's like antiquated verbiage, but I don't really care too much.
Well, I mean, the I think the word server or I think it's the word server actually means like a somebody who like serves, right? So it's like you some things I agree with, some things I don't completely agree with, and one of them that I don't really agree with is people having a problem with the name masternode. It the word master in itself might evoke a terrible past, but it also means a specific thing in computer science and other parts. And sometimes I wonder if some things have gone a little bit too far. If you want to rename masternode, maybe I've just grown super fond of the term over the years as well.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, let's
yeah, I was going to say something else, but then it's like we could be bantering forever, and we do have to kind of get through this. Well, real quick, I should put you guys out to the super chat. So if you do own one of my NFTs, you get into the Discord. If you sell the NFT, you get booted out right away. In this Discord channel, super chat for the Dash podcast, one of my NFT holders, who's not a Dash guy in the slightest, which is why this question came around, said, "Can you explain masternodes as if I was 5?" And so, I mean, I can handle this really quickly, or if you want, you can chime in something. Why don't you correct me or add something if I say something stupid or incomplete?
Okay.
Basically, a masternode is a node, but in the case of Dash, it does special functions beyond what a node does. The premise behind a masternode is just there's infrastructure that's not just proof of work mining that you need to run a good network, and you can't have it just be free. Everyone does it for free, man, because then it won't be done correctly. You got to pay people. You pay people to mine, you pay people to process transactions, you pay people to do all the work. So it's just incentivized nodes, so you don't have to worry so much about node centralization, or like if it's too expensive to run a node, not everyone will run it. The concern behind that was always, if it's too expensive to run a node, not everyone will run it, meaning large corporations will start to be the ones that do it who have outside interests. But if the network pays you to run it, if it's too expensive to run a node, but you get paid to do it, it's not too expensive to run a node. And that's kind of where it goes. And so masternodes do extra stuff on top of Dash. So like right now, Dash just works like basically like a Litecoin, I guess, if you call it, like with the 2.5 minute blocks or whatever. Basically like a Litecoin. But the on top stuff that masternodes do make transactions like basically permanent instantly, absolutely permanent. Nothing's absolute, but whatever, in 2.5 minutes via chain locks, usually, and allows for coordinating the mixing of the CoinJoin privacy function. And very soon we'll do a whole lot of other data stuff. And I guess the corollary to this for a Bitcoiner, there's a bunch of Bitcoin DeFi project type thing, chains like Stacks, for example, that are basically completely separate blockchains, but they have some tie to the Bitcoin ecosystem in some way. And it's kind of an allegory to that is this extra stuff. So, anything I bungled and all that kind of stuff?
No, you did an amazing job. Actually, it's almost as if you know this for many years.
Yeah, long in the
But
tooth.
one thing that I would like to say is V18 basically makes instant send permanent. It's the math behind breaking an instant send is actually about as strong as breaking a chain lock. So there's no way that an instant send lock is going to break anymore.
Yeah,
And that was a requirement for being able to lock money into platform.
yeah. I mean, that sounds good. I should remind before we get onto the full everything else. Oops, that's the wrong one. Main questions is obviously you can ask questions if you have an NFT in this channel and you'll be prioritized. Otherwise, you can throw me some money on cointr.ee/the desert links. Yes, dash. You can send some there and it'll pop out your little messages there. But for everything else, we'll just get on to the main questions. And I understand if you're watching this, even if it's full screen, you might not be able to read everything that's on this screen. But this is just most of the questions. I'll scroll down. I'll read them out to you. So if you're listening, you should be able to listen. So first, Zymirai, who I have no idea who that might be, says, the 4 tenets of Web3 are permissionless, trustless, decentralized, and supports payments. How does this new masternode model meet those criteria?
Well, yes. I mean, as all masternodes are, the new system meets that criteria fully. I think what is really being asked here is, are we still decentralized in the new model, in the new models that are 4K, 10K, high performance masternodes?
This might
And
be
the
a good
answer
time
there,
to go over really quickly what the
yes,
new model is. So there's going to be a new masternode type, probably.
maybe it's to be voted on. But we probably need to start with a little bit of history, actually, before we dive into all of this. Um, Basically, as I came into Dash, as there was the start ideas for how platform is going to run, um, there was never really much question about how we should run it. There had been no other projects that had done anything like this before. So it was just assumed, okay, we're going to run it on all master nodes. Fast forward to 2022, and we have the numbers, and we have a research team that actually are able to calculate different levels of security. We have like a lot more of time looking at the different economic models of how we can do this. We also have information about how our network is actually centralized or decentralized. We can actually, based on governance, figure out kind of how many clusters of masternodes there are, et cetera. And with all this information, at DCG, we kind of came to the conclusion that there's a much better system than it will run on all nodes. And that is why we have gone to the network and kind of tried to explain the various solutions that we can have other than it running on all masternodes. Now, one biggest aspect of running on 4,000 nodes is you have like a massive data replication. So let's imagine that you're storing that most master nodes are stored on a VPS, right?
Yeah.
Right there, their data replication is about factor of 3, right? So when you store 1 byte, it's probably stored on actually 3 hard drives, to make sure that there's never any problem with something going offline or like a hard drive failure. It depends on the VPS system, of course. So you already have you're paying about $1 per year per gigabyte.
Okay.
And if you have 4,000 nodes in the system, well, that 1 year is going to be like times 4,000 if we want to actually pay the network back
What it
for
costs.
the stuff it's doing. Yeah, for the cost. And that's actually when we think about what Dash platform is going to try to do, it's going to try to be a business. It's not, hey, we're subsidizing the network. No, masternodes, if it's if it picks up and it's very performant, masternode should see very high returns. And this will all improve the Dash ecosystem. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. And basically, if the fees are super super high, and we replicate it, replicate the data on 4,000 nodes, there's going to be less margin to pay the network itself and make it more into an economically viable business. So and there are many other actually aspects probably why the other models of not everybody running platform are probably better. And I'm going to probably answer tons of questions in this AMA to go through them.
Yeah, and so real quick to sort of break down the options on the table, other than limitless options, which is obviously an option.
Yeah, are limitless.
But so you could have every masternode run the entire stack of everything. So some of them just run the core stuff. Some of them, like everyone runs the platform stuff, and that's what becomes expensive because, as you pointed out, like the 1 gigabyte of storage, it's times 4,000 for 4,000 nodes. So you'd be paying a lot of money. And so the idea is to reduce costs by basically making fewer nodes out there running platform services so that it still runs fine and it's still decentralized and secure and all that, but it's just you're not overpaying for security, I guess, by you're not paying for too much duplicate efforts. It's like, so I have this computer here, it runs great. I also have my streaming set up, although in a much more ghetto way, on my laptop. Because if this thing dies, I can still stream over there. And maybe I'll have a third backup at some point. But if I had one of these, I guess, relatively powerful computers in every room of the house and then one at an office somewhere else, that's a lot of wasted money when I'm probably not going to need that much redundancy. So that's kind of the overview of the situation, right?
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah.
There's also some other aspects to it. For example, when you analyze our network, you realize quickly that you don't lose much. I mean, since they're like chunks of the network, in terms of overall security, I would say that the 10K and 4Ks are actually stronger security because of the network is already. The centralization of our network is not really going to change that much with this system because people are still going to have that much collateral just spread between 4 nodes instead of 1 node. And actually, if you think about how these probabilities are calculated, you can have very in an all nodes run platform or 1K super nodes. 1K split instead of 4K split. You can have rare events in the probabilities that will cause the system to be somewhat less secure than and I can go into that later if people have questions about it.
Okay, let's just hammer through the questions real quick because you've already I mean, this subject has been covered other places. I would love to just you and me talk live on air here and just go through what my questions are about this. But let's try to serve what the network really wants with this. So let's hit. Sure. So next from Max, from the estimated specs and the VPS provider prices, it's looking like running a platform node will require approximately 10x more expensive server than running a master node today. Do you agree? Why isn't that considered a sufficient entry barrier for masternodes to become high/platform performance nodes, whatever? And I should just say, by saying barrier to entry, I think he means in addition to increasing a collateral amount to where a platform node, let's just call it, would have to have it 4 times or 10 times, 4,000 or 10,000 dash as opposed to just the regular 1,000 to run. So first off, do you agree? And second, why don't you think that that's a big enough barrier to filter out people trying to get masternodes or these high performance nodes?
Because, well, I mean, there are multiple issues to answer on that question. But let's first go with the will it require 10x more processing power? No, it won't require 10x more processing power. It depends on how your current node is running. I run my nodes. I'll be straightforward. They're the equivalent of a medium on AWS. So that is, I forget exactly, but I run it stronger, probably than a little bit stronger than the majority of the network, where I see there are quite a lot of nodes that really go for the minimum. I know that some people still try to get by on micro nodes, and then there's
Raspberry
micro,
Pis.
yeah, micro tier, then there's small tier, then there's medium tier, and mine
Macro
are the
T.
equivalent.
There's a macro chip in there somewhere too.
That's a funny joke.
Yeah.
The point that I'm trying to make is, so if you're spending on average $25 per month on your masternode, going to platform, we have options, right? So if we want the network to be, the more we set the barrier, the more transactions per second we're going to have. The more, the system will just run better. This is actually a whole other topic that we're going to have to cover. But it's basically how do platform reward, how do rewards work in platform? But that's another topic. Maybe we answer that a little bit later.
Yeah.
To get back to,
Look,
I lost my
why
train.
do you need the implied
Yeah.
question being, why do you need extra collateral requirements?
So what we really would like, if we want a really strong network, we'd like at least 4 times the processing power of right now, at least. If we say everybody runs platform, the average person is not going to do that. They'll try to probably run it on really crappy hardware, and it will just cause one of two things to happen. So if more than 66% of the network run it on well enough spec hardware, then the people that do not are going to not get their rewards. If non 66% or 2/3 plus one run it on good enough hardware, it just won't work. Like I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's a good test to run, but most likely, the chain won't start, or will start for a few blocks and then will stop, and it will be a horrible launch. So, we also have to realize the economics of asking everybody to upgrade their hardware. Currently, right now, rewards. Let's imagine you're paying $25 per month, right, for a VPS service to run your masternode. If we ask for everybody, that is giving you a 6.8% return right now. Around, I think we have 7.6% return, and then you're paying 0.8% just in the hosting fees. Now, if we ask everybody to double or times 4 their costs, you're going to get much lower returns. And I think a lot of people would, like higher returns.
Of course.
I'm sure. Yeah, it makes sense. You don't want to be spending so much on hosting power. So most likely, people, like, let's say we set the minimum, everybody runs platform at twice the price. Everybody will go down to a 6.1% return or 6.2% return. If we, on the other hand, go for the 4K or 10K or something in between solution, the price and the cost of the network actually either stay the same or go down. And this is because there are less nodes in the system overall. Because there are these high performance nodes that are servicing platform. They're also servicing core. But the cost to the network goes down, so the amount that people make actually stays the same or goes up. So that's one really good aspect of a high performance system, is that most likely, I mean, actually, more than most likely, you know, rewards will either stay the same or go up. Whereas, if everybody runs platform, you are going to see lower rewards, and even it might not work. It could really be a shit show.
Yeah. Well, that's always an important thing to avoid, especially here. Let's
Yeah.
skip down to also from Max has another question down here, which is the critical high performance is determined by looking up a given node on the net and seeing it processing the platform blocks, right? What high/platform performance specs means will be fluctuating, especially in the beginning. Why? I mean, there's some language barrier here, I think, but why letting masternodes choose whether to compete for platform functionality is considered a bad idea. Basically, why is it? Which is why would you have to force 1K necessarily? Isn't there a fourth option to add all masternodes in addition to the new 4K, new 10K? So there's a little
Yeah.
phrasing issues there, I guess. But
I think,
basically the point is, so right now we have, if you have 1K collateral, you get a masternode, you run everything, and you get paid for it, or you get banned, right? That's just the way it works.
yeah.
Now, if you add platform, one choice is everyone runs platform in addition to everything else, which we already went over is probably too expensive and wouldn't be good. So, and then the other choice is, well, just have a new class of masternodes that also run platform, but you have to have 4K collateral or 10K or whatever. But basically, the question is, why can't people choose, I'm just going to run core stuff on my 1K masternode, or I can also run core and platform for the same 1K masternode, but then I just incur extra costs because I have to run a beefier infrastructure, and I would get the extra fees from that, but the collateral is the same. That seems to be the
Okay.
question.
Okay. There's actually, I mean, these are pretty complicated topics, so I'm going to try my best to answer so people can understand. Um, we want to do the minimum amount of changes to not delay platform, right?
Yeah.
And to that extent, we want to make high value changes with low effort.
Mm-hmm.
One aspect of that is as masternodes, in the high performance system still run core services, they still get core service rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to basically split the reward between core and platform, which is needed, and I'll get to why it's needed later, you then have a situation where you have 50% of the reward going to core, you have 50% of the reward going to platform. Well, that equality between those two values would force, I mean, if I'm a masternode, I would be very unhappy. My rewards just went from 6.8% to 3.4%, and the only way I can get them back is to run platform. So you know basically in a one case scenario, you have to run platform. Now yes, you can, to get to the level that you really want. Now, then you could question, like, okay, so what happens if we don't send rewards to platform, and
It's
and
only
people run,
fees.
and it just is generating revenue from fees? Well, we're going to really have a chicken and egg problem, where at the very beginning you're spending a lot of money on infrastructure, probably not getting that much rewards,
Getting nothing in rewards
get,
initially.
get nothing in rewards. And at the same time, this is actually a very hard change, because now we
Mm-hmm.
have to find a way to create quorums for nodes that say they want to. And what happens if you say you want to become one and you just don't start it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are going to be a lot of master nodes that probably do that, and they
Mm-hmm.
started incorrectly, and then the platform probably just won't start
So,
because
so basically, you need to be sure you're going to have a certain minimum amount of nodes that have the specs to run platform. Otherwise, it's just dead on arrival.
yeah, and you need to incentivize, either with a stick or a carrot, people to run platform. So if you don't have a stick, a little history again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Original plan was to have a stick instead of the carrot.
Mm-hmm.
Not so basically, you had to run platform, and if you didn't run platform, you would be banned.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the system is it's very hard to know if nodes are running platform or not. from the core side to ban them. And it creates a lot of security issues when platform is allowed to say to core, hey, please ban this issue. If platform had some issue in it, it could ban the whole network, right? And that's really not great.
Yeah.
On top of that, yeah. So the stick approach would have taken another 6 months of development probably. And at this point, like earlier in the year, I was like, nope, we're releasing. We can't delay to build this like very complicated proof of service system. It will come eventually, but we want to release something. We want to get it out. We want people to like it. Um, and I do think that with a carrot system that's much more fast to develop, like it's actually very simple. Um, we will achieve almost the same thing,
Yeah.
where we'll get a lot of nodes interested because it's in their economic interest to run it, and at the same time, you know, I mean, I think it really will work. Very much better than. I mean, when you're dealing with a six system, I guess I don't have to repeat this, but something can go wrong,
Yeah.
and at the very beginning, a lot of things are going to go wrong. It's a lot worse, in my opinion, for master owners that didn't think that they did anything wrong. They're just like banned all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
And then they lose out on all their rewards, and they have to like figure out the problem. It's very unnerving, right? Whereas the carrot, okay, I didn't get a reward. I'm not bad. I'm still getting my core rewards. Okay, and you can constantly like just improve platform. I mean, let's say you're not proposing blocks on platform, right? And there's some issue, right? Okay, you might lose out like a little bit of reward, like a few dollars in a few days, right? And because the rewards are more spread out, it doesn't have the same impact. So you can just be like, okay, I see that my server is not working here. I'm gonna restart it, or we're gonna. I mean, maybe the VPS stopped, or some issue happened, right? You
Yeah.
can relaunch it.
All right. Well, let's hit some of these other questions. So I scroll down
Mm-hmm.
here. So Crypto Teller, hi, says, does quorum selection tech change with the new proposed setup? Are nodes from both groups required to form a quorum? Now, before answering that, I think it'd be helpful to define which quorums are currently operational in Dash, right? There's an instant send
Mm-hmm.
one, there's a chain locks one, and what else is there?
Yeah. So the chain locks type of quorum is the oldest one. Um, it's a very simple quorum. It's a majority, a 60% majority of a 400 member network. Um, the instant send one that we previously had, which was just 66% majority, I believe, has been retired. And instead, in V18, we created a new type of quorum where only some parts of the quorum are rotated every time the quorum changes. And like this, instant send becomes crazy more secure,
Yeah.
pretty much unbreakable. And then we had the type of quorum that is meant for platform. It's a 2/3 quorum with 100 members. We chose 100 members because at the time, 100 members was really the sweet spot for Tendermint. At the moment, because of all of our changes in TenderDash, we might be able to increase that to 150. But as you increase the number of members, you get into, I mean, it requires more performance from the nodes because you're relaying to a lot more members. There's a lot more delay in network propagation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
you don't want to raise it too much, but you do get higher security and the higher you raise it.
Yeah.
So
And that should
when I say about security, I
decentralization.
have this problem. I have a problem that I have to tell your viewers.
Yes.
When I talk about security, I'm talking in the security in the sense of cryptographer talk about security. Like any harm can come to the network, like it being stopped. there is all of the systems that we have presented are all secure for transactions for the value in Dash platform. All
Mm-hmm.
of them are secure. Like you're not going even the withdrawals that withdraw Dash credits back into Dash, 100% secure. There's no all systems will not change the level of security. Um, uh, for that aspect. When I'm talking about security, often what I'm talking about is can the can somebody or some group of people stop the network, basically.
Yeah, and so yeah, that is a
And if
good
you were to,
that is a good
yeah, and if
definition, I
you
would
were
say.
yeah, if you were to stop the network, we would restart it. So I mean, you have to really think about what is the benefit of stopping the network for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, just
Destructive
harm.
benefits.
I mean, yeah, I mean it can always be restarted, right? The thing is that like it takes manual intervention to restart it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need everybody to like put in like upgrade to a new version, and then we'd restart it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just more of a, you know, like let's imagine platform becomes a household name, right? And then it goes down for a day. That's terrible. So we're trying to, make sure it never goes down.
Yeah. Let me hit on some of these here, right? So,
Mhm.
Voncan, or I don't know how I knew him as Walter Dash before, but says questions from the Russian speaking community. And he happily provided them all in Russian too, in case you want to do that. But what is the main mission of the high performance masternodes anyway? I think we kind of covered that, but is there like a one sentence answer?
Like um, lower costs, higher performance, higher security. This is,
For the
you know,
network, yeah. For
yeah,
the
higher security. Um, what else? Lower cost to the network. All of these things are gotten. So I guess we can move on from that one.
yeah, I should I forgot to go for the Optimus Cryptos thing, but let's just finish the Russian ones.
Mhm.
How will the vote of a high performance masternode be counted compared to a regular masternode? And I guess let me break down possibilities of what vote can mean in this case. I'm sure the most explicit vote is vote on governance proposals in the DAO, governance and funding proposals. And the second definition is quorum inclusion. As far as like an instance and quorum, let's just say, how many votes or entities does that count for? So let's start with the first of those two.
Yeah, I mean, we're voting. Dash is a meritocracy. We're
Mm-hmm.
voting based off the value that we have in the project.
Mm-hmm.
If we could easily create a system where somebody could vote with just 500 Dash, I would do it. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, it's 1,000 Dash equals one vote, and we're keeping that. So
Mm-hmm.
if we go for the high performance mass node system with 4K collateral, you'll have 4 votes for each one vote. Um, I mean, you'll have 4. Your vote will be of a value of 4. And if we go for the 10K
Be by
solution,
10.
your vote, yeah, for 10.
Yeah. And so as far as is quorum selection. So let's just say right now there's 4,000 master nodes, and then some of them end up in an instance in quorum, and 1 equals 1. But now when you have high performance master nodes, will they count also for 4 votes?
No, no. They would count for 1 vote. In core, they are helping core in the sense of a normal masternode. So they are performing services, not helping. Performing services for core as a normal masternode, and they get rewarded for core from core side as if they were a normal masternode. So when you're in the 10K high performance system, 90% of your rewards are going to come. Like if you're sorry, it's late. It's almost 4 a.m. I'm sorry,
Yes.
I'm laughing a little bit.
It's fine.
Um, if we go for the 10K masternode solution and a high
Mm-hmm.
performance masternode solution, and you own a 10K high performance masternode, 90% of your rewards are going to come through platform. 10% of your
Mm-hmm.
rewards are going to come through through core,
Yeah.
because you are doing work 90% on platform, 10% on core,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much.
Okay. A real quick interruption
Mm-hmm.
to go to here. We got a Cointree super chat. Thanks for making this AMA possible, Joel. For the weekend beers. Cheers, Splowick. Thank you very much, Splowick. More like weekend beer singular, because for
Exactly.
$10
You know where he
in
lives?
yeah, I live in one of the more expensive parts of the world. Not quite Switzerland, but it's still like that. Anyway,
You could get 10 beers for that amount where I am right now.
yeah, probably. So the next question. Will there be added to the API or dash CLI to distinguish a masternode from a high-performance masternode, and how the platform software distinguish between a masternode and an HP masternode? Which, by the way, if they end up being called high-performance masternodes and don't get a better name, I'm going to make all kinds of like HP sauce memes, like the HP sauce, HP
I,
masternodes.
I really think that we should just vote on the name.
Yes.
We should just make a proposal. Anybody can select a name. The one with the highest votes wins. I don't care.
Yes.
um, so what flag will be added? So when we created the masternode system, not the original one, the one that came in 2018, the deterministic masternode system, um, there was a part for type. And so far, we've only had one type, type 0, which is the normal masternode. But we were always going to create different types of masternodes, like shared masternodes. And, this is a type. We were going to create masternodes that would store data. That was an idea in the past, like store like videos and stuff like that. But that was the reason before for the type flag. And we actually even have a mode flag. But that's a whole other story of why. The answer basically is that there's a type, and that's how you distinguish them. For the platform side of things, platform doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
All nodes running platform will be high performance. And you can run platform if you are a normal masternode. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing stopping you. You just are not rewarded for doing so.
Okay, interesting. So this is quite the interesting question that I'm sure could be I'm sure the answer to this would be very different if platform was already released and you had all the time in the world, right? But did you ever consider increasing the bounty or reward for HP masternodes by reducing the share of miners, but without reducing the bounty for regular masternodes? So real quick for the newbie viewers at home, the dash block reward split, if you exclude the 10% treasury, which kind of squeezes in there, it used to be 50-50 miners masternodes, got reduced to 60 masternode, 40 miners, if I'm correct. And basically the idea would be keep masternodes at 60, but let's just say instead of 40 for miners, go down to 10. I'm just throwing out numbers, by the way. And then do a 30% for HP masternodes for platform nodes, right? Instead of like reducing the total amount that's going to masternodes by separating the masternode class in two, just create a new class and eat into the miner share of profits instead. So that seems to be the question here.
Sure. And here's quite an interesting thing that a lot of people have gotten, I believe, wrong. You're not actually reducing the bounty for regular masternodes. Yes, regular masternodes get less on every single time they get a payment, but they get a lot more payments. It's a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount going to masternodes, be it high performance or regular masternodes, but that amount going to the group stays the same. And there's a market mechanism that will make it so high performance masternodes and normal masternodes should equal out in their rewards. Because if a high performance masternode is getting like if it makes a lot of money and you have 4 masternodes, you're going to want to get more, so it will balance out. And if you're running a high performance masternode, and you're making less than 4 normal masternodes would make, you would come back. Now, really, what's interesting here is that this system is optimal at, if I'm not mistaken, at for 4K. I'm just gonna go on 4K right now. It is optimal with 450 nodes, I believe. And the network, as we've been able to like analyze it pretty strongly, can support much more than that. I think like 600 to 700 4K 4K nodes. So I mean, not everybody who wants to run a 4K can't. Like, if everybody that could do it wanted to, it would not be economically viable. So I'm gonna guess that people will start like very happy run these 4K nodes, the ones that can, and then they're going to realize, wait, it's giving me less profits. A normal masternode is actually making more on the network now, and then there's going to be like some balancing act that happens. And what's actually really cool as well here is that in this system, when platform rewards start making a significant amount, that balancing act still works. So, let's imagine that the reward, because of fees for high performance masternodes, is now at 9%. Well, it's going to leak back into the normal masternodes because, well, if it's 9% on one side and you're only making 6% on the normal masternode side, what are you going to do if you have 4K? You're going to go in, and then what will that, if somebody goes into the high performance pool, those rewards are going to go down, and the normal masternode rewards are going to go up.
Yeah.
So in the end, they will balance themselves out. I'm sure that there's going to be some small difference because any market that's not very liquid is going to have some difference. So probably we would see something like, I don't know, 7.1% versus 6.8%.
Yeah, of course.
But they will balance themselves out generally. So basically, the answer here is you don't really. We're not taking money away from the masternodes. That's not how it's going to play out. They will be getting as much as before. In fact, they'll be getting more. If you want the highest rate of return, vote for the 10K system, and you're going to have the highest rate. The problem with the 10K system, little parenthesis, is that it's harder. What?
It's fewer nodes, maybe
well,
two.
I mean, it's fewer nodes. That's not the biggest problem, in my opinion. The biggest problem is really that the barrier to entry. So you're going to have a lot of, and also like the network probably can only support with the current level of decentralization about 250 nodes, 10K nodes, or maybe a little bit less. And so you're going to have a higher percentage of what the network can support go into that. So it's I've been back and forth between 10K and 4K and what I prefer. Maybe I prefer like 8K. We're gonna actually, somebody on the forum raised that question. Why have you not analyzed 6K or 8K?
Yeah.
And I was,
well, just to add in like the really quick, like the one sentence answer of, has there been a thought of reducing minor collateral to?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So
you explained why it's not necessary to do that, but not by like how would it fit in, or would you want to?
Well, at the moment, right, we're making a kind of controversial, network decision. I don't think reducing mining rewards would be beneficial, because that will be another controversial decision. Talking about lowering mining rewards, I think that there is a talk to be had about that, but
it's a different talk.
It's a different topic. At the moment, we use the proof of work for
Mm-hmm.
securing our chain very much. Still to some extent in the case
Mm-hmm.
of failures of chain locks, um, and there are technological advancements that are going to come out in the next few versions that will make what the miners bring to the network go down. And at that
Mm.
point, I do think there's a there's a talk to be had, because like if somebody's providing a service for you and
Mm-hmm.
you no longer need that service, well, you shouldn't pay them as much, right?
Yeah, just
And
pay
we
them for
are
the.
paying the miners a lot for that service. So I do think that there is a conversation there. But that's
Yeah.
really not the topic of the next few months.
Yeah. Well, let's crack through the rest of these Russian questions. So,
Hmm.
first, what will happen to high performance masternodes after sharding is implemented? I'm worried about the number of masternodes in each shard. So, I don't think you need to spend a ton of time on this just because sharding is not
Yeah,
like
sure.
this year and it's possibly not next year. I don't know. It's like it's a little
It's
ways
not.
away.
I do not think we'll have sharding in the next 24 months. I
Okay.
just do not think so.
Okay.
So
So, that being said, just a quick ish answer to that, I guess.
sure. Exactly. So in a sharded system, we pretty much want 100 nodes per shard,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be really good to have more high performance nodes at that point of sharding. But we can. There's nothing stopping us from, going to 4K. Platform generates tons of revenue. We realize that we need to scale the chain, so we start and we like, okay, the 4K solution was great, or the 10K solution was great, but now the rewards are so high, it's we have to change the parameters of our system, and we introduce sharding, and now we have 24 shards of high performance um, uh, quorums, all being paid from the high level of fees. Well, not high fees, but the amount of fees coming from platform. So this is, we can change things later, but we should have a good system for our users, for our network now. And then when we introduce sharding, you know,
You'll have to figure it
go,
out.
yeah, we'll figure it out. We're
Um,
not, I mean, just because there are only, 450 or 180 nodes that will run platform on release doesn't mean that that's the right number forever.
Yeah. And so the last one on this line of Russian questioning
Mm-hmm.
is, which by the way, I want to reflect for a second in such a, just on a personal note, on in such a crazy world today, isn't it great that we're just interacting with our Russian buddies? No problem that we're all kind of on the same team because we're all caring about a better, more decentralized financial future. And yeah, we're on,
Yeah.
it's kind of a beautiful thing. Anyway, aren't you afraid that 50% of the planned 200 200 horsepower, no, 200 high performance master nodes will be in the same data center or in the same hands? So basically, is this going to be a centralization problem?
I'm not afraid, because we looked at the data and the data just does not support that. Um,
Which, by the way, let's just reflect on how good of an answer that is. That we always want that. I'm not afraid because we looked at the data to actually run based on data instead of like, well, I don't know, let's figure it out.
yeah. So, and we did the calculations of security of being able to take down the network based off of the top master owner, with them getting an extra 40% dash. So that would leave them at, I think, 370,000 dash. At 370,000 dash, the most secure system is the 10K, followed by the 4K, and a high performance 1K solution was just not secure at all, I would say.
Yeah.
So insecure in the sense of, I have to repeat it once again, of being able to stop platform.
Yes. I should really quick move back to the questions because we did. I
Mm-hmm.
accidentally skipped over this one. Optimus Crypto said, high performance masternodes, will it require a validator to upgrade the hardware? Basically, I mean, obviously there's more performance required, but will you need hardware increases and upgrades?
Yes. Yes, we will. And this has actually been a very good question. How do we enforce this? It is hard to enforce. I will not lie. I'll put it bluntly. The if 2/3 of the network upgrade their hardware to a proper amount, then the other one and the 1/3 do not, then that 1/3 that do not basically will fall behind and not get rewards. We need 2/3 to be good actors at start.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to find a way around that. But I believe that in the high performance, one of the high performance solutions, those people are taking a decision to serve platform. And I do think that over 2/3 will set their hardware requirements to the correct level. Because it's in their interest to do it as well. There are platform fees from block rewards that are being accrued that are starting. It's like, imagine a pile of gold, right? And you're constantly pushing money to the pile of gold. The pile keeps on growing. And as soon as you start platform, you're going to get rewards from this. So it's not only good actors, it's in their interest to start platform. Once platform is started, and we start to see usage, the nodes that do not serve properly are going to start falling behind. And when you start falling behind, you're not going to be able to propose blocks. And then if you're not able to propose blocks, you don't get paid. So
yeah,
I mean, I went on a detour there and explained, but yes, you'll need to upgrade your hardware. And then at some point, the network will saturate based off of the power of the network, right? That's a very good problem to have because that means that we have a lot of usage, which I think we will have actually. At that point, the whole network needs to upgrade to stronger hardware, but they will do that. Why will they do that? Well, they're getting tons of fees. Wouldn't you want to get more fees? Wouldn't you want to make more money? I mean, I know I would. So, it's a market. What we're trying to do here is make platform into a viable business, basically.
Yeah. And that's, obviously speaking my capitalistic language. Let us switch to the super chats real quick. We did get a couple of new ones. From Nerdmoney said, platform nodes get rewarded as normal master nodes. I thought platform nodes were getting 4 times to 10x of the rewards depending on their collateral. So that's the confusion of because platform nodes get core rewards too, right? I mean, these special.
Yeah.
And so if you are a 4x or a 10x collateral requirement, and you can vote 4x to 10x in governance proposals, does that also mean you get 4x to 10x the block rewards as a regular masternode?
You don't get them from all the same source. So in the 4x system, you're going to get 25% of your rewards from core and 75% of your rewards from platform. In the 10x system, you're going to get 10% of your rewards from core because you're still a normal masternode.
Yes.
So what is 1,000? 1 divided by 10. 10%.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Or 1 divided by 4.
So I guess that goes to the question of, which we sort of had this chat in one of the channels the other day, but so for purposes of this, it's the nodes are for all fees, they're 4x collateral, 4x fees, I guess, right? They run they're 100% of platform as far as that stuff's concerned. They could vote 4x. They're 4 node, like a 4x node is a 4 nodes as far as voting for stuff, but it's only 1 unit as far as core is concerned. And so do you worry a little bit about that making less total stuff kind of securing?
Oh, no.
the
for
core
quorum.
network.
Not at all. And the reason why I don't is because you actually increase security of chain locks. And why do you? And this is like when I first thought of these systems, I did not realize the consequences. And then as I did more and more research, I was like, wow. Because think of it this way: in a 400 member quorum currently in core, well, you have 400,000 dash locked up. But if you introduce high-performance masternodes into the loop, you're going to have some nodes that have more value, and it's going to be spread out evenly among the quorum, which basically means that there's more value locked up in a specific quorum, so it becomes more secure because of that.
Yes, it's sorry for throwing in
Actually,
director privilege to add the second layer of that bit, but so that's under an honest system, whereas people are following the economic incentives by core versus platform. Right now, this is maybe this is just another thing to keep you from getting sleep at night. Just throwing that out. Sorry, but if someone's trying to attack the Dash network in the current system before platform, you just need, like, let's just say 2,000, 1,000 Dash nodes. So you need just like a ton of money to be able to, you know what I'm saying? Is in you need a,
yeah, it's not that. It's let me see how many. It depends.
yeah, well,
It really
it doesn't matter, but basically you need a roughly half the Dash supply, something like that.
about a third.
Yes. So you need about that much. Now, if you don't care about making money, if you're just trying to attack the Dash network, you could spin up, you could start getting regular masternodes, and even when it's not profitable, just only get masternodes, only get core nodes. And then as the profitability, because you're flooding that system, goes down for core nodes, they're going to be flooding over to the platform side. And so then as that happens, the attacker gets more and more nodes in just the core side, and fewer and fewer of those are not theirs. And so at that point, let's just say at some point they run all the core nodes, or most of the core nodes, and then the platform nodes are mostly like real honest actors. The platform nodes, for that one vote, as far as a quorum is concerned, had to pay 4 times the amount of collateral in order to constitute that. So the attacker, basically, it's still expensive to attack, but basically they got a 75% discount on their price of an attack, because they don't have to run expensive nodes because they didn't care about the fees. And I get it's a little bit of a weird edge casey thing, and it's a pain in your ass, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, I mean, the total. I didn't really understand, but I'm gonna assume I understood. You're talking about the total amount of core nodes will basically go down, and that's the issue, correct?
Or rather, the total number of core nodes owned by not the attacker will go down, because it won't be profitable. They'll just be chasing profits, whereas the attacker will be able to take hits on their profitability during this time period, and then they'll end up kind of running that.
Got it. So we have to think about the potential attacks on the main chain. There's incentivize and there's chain locks.
Yeah.
So let's imagine that somebody has a lot of nodes, very, 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 very many. The security of incentivize is so high that at the moment that I'm not worried. I would be more worried about chain locks. Now, for chain locks, what would they achieve? So what they could do is that they could, there are two things that you can do. If you have, if you had 66% of the net or 60% of the network, you could say that this block was chain locked instead of another one. That would be terrible for our system. But to have 60% of all nodes, I mean, if somebody had 60% of the Dash, that would be 1,400. No, that would be more than that. Yeah, it would be about 1,600 nodes If one entity is controlling 1,600 nodes and they want to break the system,
Yeah. So
I mean,
so
they're not.
basically, it's an edge case that's still super expensive, and it's like,
I mean, it's not in their interest. They're owning so much Dash. Yes, they could break the system, but they're owning more than half the network. Why would they? Why
yeah.
would they like lose on all that money?
Let me also discredit my criticism real quick as I'm thinking about this. Is for example, one thing we saw in the
I do
Bitcoin.
have.
Yes.
I just noticed my battery needs. My battery has a problem. I
Okay.
will be back in 10 seconds.
All right.
Continue your thought.
All right. Well, let me hit. All right. He will have like that the weird picture for a second. But as I was saying, um, one thing we saw in the Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin SV hash war is while the amount of hash rate that's able to be profitable to mine these systems might be a certain amount, there's a much higher amount of available hash rate to defend each network in the event of a adversarial case. So I guess to answer my own little question in here in a little bit, in that situation where the attacker moves over and ends up controlling, all the core nodes and all the platform nodes are by honest people. If attacks start to happen, those honest people can just turn their 4K collateral into 4 nodes instead of like 1 as it is currently. And just they can all be unprofitable for a while and come back and save the network until the attacker decides to go away. So I kind of answered my own question / concern. Yeah, so that's fun. I hope Sam's battery thing ends up working out. He's still around though, so his computer.
I'm
didn't
here.
die.
I'm here.
There we go.
All good. All good.
Okay,
Sorry
that was
about
actually perfectly timed. You heard my answer, right?
Yeah, I did.
So
I'm proud of you.
so yeah.
Also, I also wanted to say one thing while we're on the topic of how many nodes are in core.
Yes.
Currently, the optimal number for instance end is anything above 1,920. If you get below 2/3 of that number, instance end does not perform as well for the network. So actually, it's between, I don't know what 2/3 of 1,920 are, but
Yeah, no one
between
does.
there's like you can imagine like a soft cap, right? Underneath 1,920, you're starting to see some issues. Not really issues. We had the previous instance end system. One masternode. Sometimes, once per year, it happened that one masternode was in 7 quorums at the same time, right? And when you're in 7 quorums at the same time, you have a much bigger load for the network to support it. And sometimes what would happen is that they would get proof of service banned. And this was causing like random proof of service bans. Like, you have a node up for 2 years and then all of a sudden it gets proof of service banned. You didn't change anything. Well, maybe just randomly it was in so many different quorums. Actually, with V18, this has gone away. Now you're pretty much guaranteed to be in 1 quorum at a time.
Okay.
But under 1,920 nodes, you could be in 2.
Yeah.
So we are really trying to keep 1,920 nodes. And both the 4K and the 10K solution will keep more nodes than that on our core side.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's funny, that whole like being POSV bound because you're at too many quorums accidentally. That kind of reminded me of like people like Ash who do so many different things in the network that they kind of overload. And probably yourself, you're about to get pose banned yourself as a human being because you're at too many quorums of work at the same time. You need to just be in one, but you're doing too many things. The nerdy dumb humor we come up with in these trying times.
Oh, it's all good.
All right, so let's hit this one right here. So Greatwolf said, not sure if already asked, what does market demand look like for something like Dash Platform? how many people are lining up and banging on the door to use something like platform, Black Friday style? Or is it more of a build it and they will come? And I'm sure it's a mixture of those, but like, yeah, what do you think about the market situation for something like that?
From everybody I've talked to, there are two things that most systems care about. It's the fees and the services that are provided and the reliability, right? So if we can create a system with the lowest fees, the highest reliability, and what was the third one? Late. Anyways,
Yeah.
basically, we will, people will want to use us. It's definite. Like systems already exist out there, not doing exactly the stuff that we're doing. Like we have decentralized queries. I don't think anybody else has that. So you have a higher level of reliability. You have lower fees. Well, I do think we build it and they will come is kind of there. I mean, if you were to do market analysis and say, hey, would you like the more expensive system that gives you less features, or would you like the least expensive that gives you more features?
Well,
Well, I
like,
guess most people would go for the least expensive one. That
really
gives you.
quick off the top of my head. So, what competitors to Dash are currently being used to Dash platform? Like, because it's not an EVM, it's not like a smart contract capable system won't be immediately at least. So,
Mhm.
who's using something like
Well,
that? That you say that it's more secure and
you
better
don't.
than?
You
What's a
don't.
comparison?
Well, you don't need smart contracts to do a lot of stuff that people use smart contracts for. Smart contracts basically are a way to get rules around storage.
Yeah.
Our rules are basically hard coded into the data contract. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going from point A to point B, you just say what point B's data structure is. And then you're able to basically insert into the data structure with rules that are predetermined, based off of the contract. So it is different and it has limitations, but we will be having smart contracts eventually, and I do think for probably 90% of, maybe not 90%, but about 50% of all usages of Web3, it's good enough for now. Um, like and better, because you can actually query in a decentralized way. So
Yeah.
I do really think that a lot of people will be like, okay, you guys don't have smart contracts. We need smart contracts. We're not coming to you until you get them, right? And
Yeah.
some other, and that's just the way it's going to be, right? We have to release, something, and then we'll release something better and better and better. The the good part of all this about smart contracts is that there are systems that are already made, and we don't really need to do much work to support smart contracts. While smart contracts are an extremely big feature, we are looking at like high value, low cost, right?
Yeah.
So in the sense, we take a system that is already exists and already open source, and we modify it for Dash. So what will it mean to modify it for Dash? Well, it will mean that we'll have to introduce all our primitive structures around our data contracts, but that isn't a gargantuan effort. And then, I've even heard, why don't you have it for release then if it's not a gargantuan effort? Well, it's not a gargantuan effort, but even something that takes 2 or 3 months, you don't really, every little thing takes 2 or 3 months, and then we really want to get something out there. The way I feel what is going to happen is people are going to be extremely happy with new methods of governance that you can now like create like multiple choice options in contracts. You can there's going to be dash pay where you can send between users, right? There's
Yeah.
people will have a lot of stuff to play with at launch. So if we don't have smart contracts at launch, it's not great, but you know
Yeah.
people will be entertained by
So,
the capabilities of the system for a period of time.
so to sort of give the abbreviated version of that answer,
Yeah.
if I could summarize that, basically, like, what's the product and the demand? Basically, look at stuff like Ethereum, Solana, BSC, all, Polygon, whatever. Look at all those things. We can do a part of that, not everything they can do, but a chunk of the stuff that people are doing on that stuff. But it will be faster, cheaper, more efficient, etc., and more secure, etc., etc.
But that's not actually, I mean, those are side products of how we built our system, right? But that
Yes.
was not what we were trying to do. We were
Yes.
not trying to do like slightly outperform them on, some levels of, you know, fees, right? That's not our goal. The goal is that a lot of these systems are really centralized. They don't
Yes.
appear centralized, but they actually are, because they're points of failure, of chokes, right, on the system. You can have complete decentralized query execution, like smart contract execution. But if you can only get the results on your phone from one service, how decentralized are you really?
Yeah, of course.
Like there's a single like if somebody wants to take down like all these services, they just break that one point of failure. I hope I haven't given anybody any ideas.
Yeah,
But
that makes
you know,
sense.
it's so I guess the industry realized how hard a problem it was, and they were like, okay, well, we're not going to wait 15 years to do this, or not, I don't know how long it's been,
That's the
but
Dash way, is to wait 15 years for the price. Sorry.
well, it's actually, I guess that the Dash way was that we didn't really compromise on some ideals.
All right. So we got about
Whatever.
15 minutes before I got a hard out, unfortunately. But thankfully, we're mostly through the questions. But feel free to submit any other ones, and then always asking, ping Sam in the Discord after that. So
We had the after party
yeah,
as well.
Max, we basically covered all those, and that's a link to a question is a link to a different question. Splowik, thanks for the one beer. Splowik said, what was the idea behind high-performance masternodes dictated by Tendermint 100 validators, as it can't scale well with more of those? Have you noticed that Tender Dash can have the same issues, and is this the reason behind this decision?
No. I mean, it is true. Tendermint is ideal with 100 nodes, and Tender Dash. We probably are going to need to change the name of Tender Dash, because it's like apples and oranges now.
It's not Tender anymore.
It comes from the same code base, but it's very different. Quick shout out to the team building it. They are doing an amazing job. For example, Tendermint was supposed to have save block execution, I believe, in March. I want to say Tendermint teams have been amazing. They do really amazing work, but yeah, they didn't get smart. They didn't get same block execution. Our team of two people are finishing the story right now. So, and same block execution is very, very, very powerful. One thing there is that one reason why we're able to do it much faster is that we don't have to deal with Tendermint legacy, right? So we don't have to support both next block execution, same block execution. But sorry.
Yeah. All right, let's hit this last question that's on this thing.
No, I didn't.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think I answered it. I don't think I answered it. But no, the answer was no. It's not really dictated by Tendermint limitations.
Yeah. So these last two. So first off, Hi Kanuker said, is there going to be moderation of content, also known as the XKCD problem, hosted on the foundational layer of platform as opposed to the apps that sit on top of platform? If so, how will it be determined what is considered inappropriate content and how that prevented from being abused? If it's by majority consensus, remember that in individuals, insanity is rare, but in groups, it's the norm. For example, the majority of people believed the now disproven information about Zorona and led to many people being censored. But basically, is there going to be any moderation of the stuff that's stored on?
It's a very good question. So any system we build that's complex and moderation is very complex, takes time. So on release, we will not have moderation. The real thought about this is, uh, what do we do for release? Let's start with that, and then I'll go on to how we could moderate platform. Um, on release, we're just going to restrict the size of data blobs to a very small amount, like that people cannot post,
Bad things.
inappropriate, things that would give the project a very bad
I'm
reputation.
looking at you. You know who you are. All right, keep going.
So we're going to basically just restrict sizes. It will be good enough for small blobs of data, not good enough for pictures, not good enough for videos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do you moderate? Well, that is a very hard question. And the way that I am proposing that we do this is you elect a group of individuals who have the ability to mark content at a certain type. So, for example, they find some data as inappropriate because it's like WikiLeaks stuff. They'll mark it as such. As a network, we then decide what we allow to be hosted. It might be everything, and what high performance masternodes must host. So there are two levels there, right? So what you must host is pretty much everything except, well, I mean, we decide. We just decide as a network. We have voting mechanisms. We can decide what the network must host. At that point, we also So let's imagine that somebody posts something, and let's say everything is allowed on our network. Like everything is allowed, and you must only do certain types of content. Let's say that you must host. You're allowed to host leaks, like some type of stuff like that. I don't know, but I'm just giving an example. But you don't have to. So what then will happen is the masternode network, the masternodes themselves can say, okay, I'm hosting this type of content and I'm not hosting this type of content. And then they won't serve that type of content. In
Okay,
fact,
so to really quickly jump in here, so that means that the moderators, whoever they might be or however that would be, are really just flaggers. They're just taggers.
they,
They
they
tag
flag.
they flag content type, and then if some stuff has been flagged as like not good, then masternodes can choose whether they want to host or serve it or not. But some masternodes, like for example, XKCD's node or demo's lack of node, whatever, can just host everything. Just decide, nope, I'm hosting everything. No, I don't
I'm
care.
hosting everything. And then in the system, really, you will have the list of what nodes will host what. So if you want to get that information, you still have it. It's still, I mean, the problem to some extent is that there would be less nodes hosting this more sensitive information, right? But I don't, this is a very touchy subject. It's
Yes,
very
this
hard
is the
to.
worst subject. The worst
This
one.
is the
The worst
worst
one.
subject. It's really hard to get consensus on it.
Yeah.
It's going to require a lot of votes from our system to figure out what we want to do.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in personal choice. I don't like forcing um, forcing people to host something that they don't want to host. But at the same time, like it's not easy. It's not easy to figure
Yes.
out these things.
And
I also
I'm glad to hear that there's a temporary workaround by limiting data size in the initial release, so that
it's actually possible that as a network we decide that we always want to limit it,
yeah,
right? To not have to. The thing is that as a network we have to make these choices.
yeah, and that might be something. Just like I don't know, go off road here too much, but like that might be something that the network never decides to host things of sizes such as like videos and images, and just uses IPFS for that instead. Just does IPFS pins, and
You know
then
what? that's a solution, right?
Yeah.
We can
And so,
offload these
so then no
into,
censorship actually happens, or no decisions about censorship happen, because you just offload that sort of content to a different system entirely.
yeah, yeah, to some extent. But
That's
even
called the
as
fantastic, time honored move of passing the buck. I love it.
tech, I would say that you don't only need to have images to have sensitive content, right, or videos. So even small blobs could, like let's say you post credit card information for, or personal identity information for thousands of people.
Yeah.
That's also sensitive information that, it's not it's not great to it's a very complicated topic, and we are going to have to make some decisions on which way we go. I'm going to stay pretty much out of the I believe this, I believe that. uh,
Yes.
I just want the network to make this decision, because at the same time, it's really the network that decides these
Yeah.
things.
Well,
So,
let's hit
but
up.
before,
Yeah. Sorry.
but before we do that, right, we do need platform running so we can have
Yeah.
much easier governance questions.
So, really quick on this last super chat question, and then we go back to like the literally final one on the other one. Nerdmoney just said, so ideally, at least 75% of a 4,000 collateral platform node would come from fees awarded to platform services. But we're talking block reward too, though, right?
Yeah. So I mean, like it will change over time. And even when we launch platform, we'll probably have a gradual change, so it's not abrupt. Um, I mean, that's to be decided, but those are like minor decisions, right? So if we like go from like 5%, 10%, all the way up to 50%, it's small implementation detail. Like, oh, I don't think anybody really cares about that. We're, how this system comes into place in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The thing is that 75%, yeah, it's about 75% if there are no platform fees. Let's imagine that there are platform fees. Well, yes, you would get more from platform. Yes, you would get more from platform.
Yes. All right. So the very, very final one, unfortunately, got cut off on the bottom of this
Mhm.
feed here, but I could still read it. How does the increase in collateral size incentivize anyone to run a better performing node?
Yeah, and I covered that.
Yes.
So you need to have the system start. And then once the system is started, you need to be able to propose blocks. If your node's not performant enough, it won't propose blocks. It will
Yeah.
lag behind. It just won't work. If we're getting a lot of usage, like let's imagine we're getting 500 transactions per second, your node will, it's based off of usage really. So you can probably skimp out at the very, very beginning, but by doing so, as soon as the transaction count starts going up, you're going to start losing rewards. So it's really like, and it's going to be like a gradual thing, or it could be sudden, depending on how bad your node is. Uh, you're gonna if you start missing on rewards, you're gonna be like, okay, I better upgrade my node. We have a recommended specs for the beginning, but you know probably in the first month you won't need to follow the recommended specs. You could probably get away with much less, but over time it's going to go probably beyond the recommended specs as usage picks up. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Well, that does. All right. Are we good to cap this thing off here? Any other final words you have to say?
Yeah, actually there is something that I wanted to say.
Go
I'm
for it.
actually really excited, not only about this governance proposal, but also about how things have started to move quite quickly in um, in DCG. I remember the time, like I got into the project. I got in because I saw the Darkcoin project back in the day. I just saw updates all the time. You know, looking back at that code, I kind of realized why they were going so fast. But you know, we're at a better spot right now, and you know, there is going to be a lot of stuff released in a much shorter time compared to what we saw. Because when we think about what DCG has done, it has put 80% of its resources into platform over the last X many years, right? And has not actually got that to market yet. But once it
Yes.
gets to market, there's going to be a lot faster updates, many changes faster, because you know we're increasing incrementally a product that's actually released. So I just cannot wait. I cannot
Yeah.
wait till it's out.
Yeah. Just the whole like finally ship Evo thing is
Yeah,
so when Evo, hopefully this year, that would be nice. And
it
yeah,
it it a release will be out this year. I strongly believe that. It won't activate though. Like you need the miners to upgrade. You need like but there will be the release this year.
yeah.
I mean, it's still looking that like that according to our roadmaps. So
Well,
we have 2 teams finishing this month out of the 5.
well,
Uh,
thanks a bunch for being on. Thanks so much for saying all this cool stuff. It's a very tricky system, and I think that I'm sure you'd agree. I would like to reiterate to people that a lot of this seems like holy shit. There's this whole extra titanic amount of stuff that hit at the very right in like October. This is terrible. Oh my gosh, this is a bad sign. But really, the the new node type, as you mentioned before, is a relatively low work, trivial change kind of thing, right? Once you get it, figure out what you want to do. It's easy to just snap that in.
You know what? There were so many people asking this question that I asked Odysseus to code it up, and he did it in less than an hour.
So it's
So
done.
we already have the pull. Well, there's going to be some changes, right? It has to be reviewed, but
Yeah.
probably another hour worth of work, or 2 hours, or a day at max. This is not a a heavy cost change, and
Yes.
that is why like I propose it this way. There are systems that are probably better, right? But they require a lot of work. And,
We'll get there.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Please, if you're still watching, please hit this thing with a like and subscribe to the channel. I really like that. And thanks for all the tips. Thanks for everything. At some point in the future, by next Dash podcast, I will get my own NFT out for just the Dash podcast, not my general purpose channel one. So you cheap fucks can get into the into the super chat easier and stuff. But anyway, thanks so much for being on. Everyone say nice things to Quantum when you bump into him on the interwebs. And yeah, we'll see you guys later.